Hello everyone, this is Unit 4, Lesson 5. Solving by factoring. Warm up. Identify the method of factoring to use. Factor. X squared plus 3x. We can definitely common factor x out of both. So I place my x and I start my bracket. X squared divided by x gives you x. 3x divided by x gives you 3. And you finished factoring. 4x squared minus 25 is a difference of squares. So the square root of 4 gives you 2 and a 2. X squared gives you x and x in each bracket. Place a positive and a negative next. The square root of 25 gives you 5 and 5. Next, x squared minus 6x plus 8 is a simple trinomial. If you recall, you need to make the chart of all the possible factors of 8 first. So all my possible factors of 8 are 1 and 8, 2, and 4. Now you need to find a combination of these that will add to negative 6. If I place a negative 2 and a negative 4, negative 2 times negative 4 still gives me positive 8, and negative 2 minus 4 gives me negative 6. Therefore, these are my two options for my brackets. They are my factors. I start my two brackets and I place x in front of both. Then I write one of the factors, which was negative 4, and the other factor, which was negative 2. And I'm finished. In this lesson, we will be solving by factoring. Solving an equation of the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0 is also called determining the roots, the zeros, or finding the x-intercepts. These all mean the same thing. Principle of zero products. If a times b equals 0, then a equals 0 and b equals 0, or both a equals 0 and b equals 0. Your steps. You set the equation equal to 0. Next, you factor your polynomial. Always check for your greatest common factor first. 2 terms usually means a difference of squares. 3 terms is a simple trinomial. Next, you're going to set each of the factors equal to 0 and solve. Example number 1. Solve x squared minus 3x minus 40 equals to 0. Your first check is the equation equal to 0? And it is. Your next step is to factor the two numbers. You need to find two numbers that multiply to negative 40 and add to negative 3. You might want to list them down the side of your page. Once you have found your factors that multiply to negative 40, you then need to check that they add to negative 3. In this case, negative 8 and positive 5 add to negative 3 and multiply to negative 40. I've set up my brackets so I have x with one of the factors and x with the other factor equals 0. Next, you're going to set each bracket or each factor to 0 and solve for x. So x minus 8 equals 0, or x plus 5 equals 0. Next, you're going to solve for x. Bringing negative 8 over the equal sign, you get x equals 8. And bringing positive 5 over the equal sign, you get x equals negative 5. Therefore, x is equal to 8 or x is equal to negative 5 as your solutions. On page 2, again, the steps for solving is you set the equation equal to 0, you factor, and then you set each of the factors equal to 0 and you solve. Example A, x squared minus 5x plus 6 equals 0. My two factors that I found were negative 3 and negative 2. I placed them in each bracket and still set the entire equation equal to 0. Next, I separate the brackets by equaling each to 0. X minus 3 equals 0, x minus 2 equals 0. Then I solved. X equals 3 and x equals 2. Therefore, x is equal to 3 or x is equal to 2. B, x squared minus 8x equals 0. In this case, I can common factor an x out of each of these terms. X squared divided by x gave you x, and negative 8x divided by x gave you negative 8 equals 0. Next, I solve each bracket. Don't forget, this first term is a bracket. You have to set this equal to 0 as well. X equals 0 is the first one. My second bracket is x minus 8 equals 0. Therefore, x equals 0 and x equals 8. C. M squared equals negative 24 plus 10m. My first step, I have to rearrange it so it's in the form m squared minus 10m plus 24 equals 0. Now I can find my two numbers. I need two numbers that multiply to 24 and add to negative 10. Those numbers are negative 6 and negative 4. Don't forget to set your equation still equal to 0. Next, set each bracket equal to 0. M minus 6 equals 0 and m minus 4 equals 0. Therefore, m equals 6 and m equals 4. Last one. X squared minus 9 equals 0 is a difference of squares. The square root of x squared is x, which you place in the first brackets, the first sets. Then you put a plus and a minus. Next, the square root of 9 is 3. You still set it equal to 0. Then you let each bracket equal 0 and solve. X plus 3 equals 0 and x minus 3 equals 0. Therefore, x equals negative 3 and x equals positive 3. Application questions. The area of a business card is given by this quadratic relation. Your first step is to factor. After factoring, I got x plus 9 and x minus 5. Your next step is set each bracket equal to 0 and solve. I get x equals 5 and x equals negative 9. Solve for the correct value for the width. My width would be 5. It has to be positive. Solve for the length. The length would be x plus 4, which then means 5 plus 4, which that means 9. These are the dimensions of the card. And that is it for the lesson.